Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar today on sales and use tax compliance for the small business owner. My name is Kelly Batchoffner, and we have a great presentation today. We will be recording this webinar, so you'll be able to all view it after we are done. Today, we will be covering some of the pain points that we all face when dealing with sales tax, as well as how using Avalara can assist with the sales tax automation, alleviating risks, and saving yourself time so you can focus on your business. I trust this will be a valuable use of your time today, and on the last slide will be my contact information if you have any questions. So let's jump in here. Our reason for being, why is Avalara in business, and why do we have such a passion for sales tax? We took a survey from accountants, and 48% think that a Rubik's Cube would be easier to master than sales and use tax laws. I don't know about you, but I've never been able to master a Rubik's Cube except for pulling off the stickers and putting it back on. So this seems very hard to me. And 69% of accountants say that understanding sales tax compliance is one of the most confusing aspects of the accounting team's job. And we'll get into this a little bit more later today as well. I know myself living in Oregon, and for those of you who don't know, we don't have sales tax, so come and go shopping here, please. When I used to hear the word sales tax, I would freak out. This is a pain point for many businesses, and this is why Avalara is around, because sales tax is very confusing. So you might be thinking to yourself, is sales tax confusing? Because I never really thought about it. I know before I started working for Avalara, especially living in Oregon, I never gave sales tax a second thought. But when do businesses actually start thinking about it? Everyone thinks about it either at the time of an audit or after an audit, and that is just too late. You might be paying penalties and spending a lot of time on an audit, and we all know that they do not make it easy. Other times you might be thinking about sales tax is when you are expanding into a new business, adding a new company, or adding a new product line. Or maybe you are getting a new accounting system like QuickBooks or Fishbowl. Maybe you are starting to sell across states and expanding into places like California or possibly Texas. Or maybe you start an e-commerce store and selling your products online to multiple states. Or possibly you have a remote office for your company in California, Washington, North Carolina, or Texas. You have to collect sales tax Nexus from your remote locations. So that is absolutely something you need to think about as you continue to grow. Now, before we get too much into this presentation, I know when I first heard the word Nexus, I had absolutely no idea what it was. So before we deep dive in too much, I want to make sure that we all have a good understanding on what Nexus is. Nexus is a connection between your business and a state. If your business has Nexus in a certain state, you generally must collect sales tax within that jurisdiction. It used to be where you had a physical presence, and that's easy enough, right? Well, then the e-commerce boom happened, and people started selling things everywhere, not just where they had stores. I know for me personally that I am the biggest supporter on the best investment ever, which is Amazon Prime, and I hardly ever have to go to stores anymore. All of my holiday shopping is done and it arrives right on my doorstep. Well, e-commerce and how much it has grown has really made sales tax and Nexus confusing. Trying to figure out where it can be very tricky, and the rules differ so much from state to state. So have you or your clients created Nexus a presence in any new tax jurisdictions in this past year? Have you expanded your field sales force or reseller channel? Did you attend or participate in a new trade show? Are you selling or servicing products in a new area? Each state is different when it comes to defining Nexus. In some states, simply attending a trade show creates Nexus. It is important for a business to review their Nexus status and get expert assistance to ensure that they are compliant. When you discuss sales tax with your clients, it really helps them see you as a trusted advisor and solidifies that accountant and client relationship. So questions that you may ask your clients. Do you have traveling salespeople that physically enter the state to conduct business? Do you utilize contract labor in any way or for any purpose in conjunction with the sale of tangible personal property or the performance of a service? Do you have marketing personnel and or other company representatives? Or are you affiliated with any way individuals that enter the state for purposes of conducting business or representing your business in any way, either directly or indirectly? Do you own or lease any real or personal property located in the state? This is one that I find super interesting, and they call it affiliate nexus. If you have a banner ad in certain states and that banner ad happens to hold a space in New York, then you have to pay sales tax just for advertising there. Do you participate in any trade shows or exhibits that promotes your products or services in the state? And this list of questions just keeps on growing and growing. Nexus laws are often quite complex, and each state is different. Review the laws in each new state where you or your clients conduct business. If you have indeed established Nexus, check the state's tax laws so that calculations, filings, and remittances are on track. So it's not also where you are, but also product taxability. And I think this is where it gets very interesting. If you think about it, you know the sales tax rate for your city, right? And if the government says, hey, we're going to change that rate by 0.25%, it would probably be in the papers or on the news, or someone would be tweeting about it, or it would be on social media, because people get really mad when they see that increase. But people don't really notice, for example, if their bagel in New York is taxed or not. And that's why the government really adds the different taxes for the products. And that's why certain products are taxable and certain ones aren't. So let's go back to that bagel in New York. if you get a sliced bagel, it's taxable. But if you get a whole bagel, it's exempt. And that's because slicing a bagel puts a service onto that bagel, and services are taxable in New York, which is just super crazy how complicated these type of things can get. So for this example, my advice, just ask for a knife next time you're there. Another funny example I just love is donuts in Texas. If you purchase less than 5 donuts, it's taxable. But if you have more than 5, it's exempt. The reason behind this is that they think if you have less than 5 donuts, you're going to dine in and eat there. And if you have more than 5 donuts, you're more likely to take it to go. I think that police officers will be safe from the sales tax charge. However, anyone else out there, watch your donuts and order 5 or more. This leads into a great segue for takeout food. Whenever you order food from McDonald's or Taco Bell or somewhere else where you eat out, they might say to you, do you want this for here to go? And for me, I always thought that they just wanted to know if I wanted it in a bag or not. Well, no, no, no. What they're really wondering is if they want to charge you sales tax. Because if you're going to dine in, this can vary, of course, from state to state, but most likely it is going to be taxable. However, if you're taking it out, then it's exempt. Like in Minnesota, the snow removal is taxable, but only in certain cities. So it's not even in the state. It can get down to the city level as well. And these are just a few examples, but the list goes on and on and on. People think of sales tax as in terms of rates, and that is just what you're charged. But as you can tell from the few examples we went through, it goes much deeper than that. There are millions of different rules and jurisdictions. The maps for we're currently looking at shows all of the different jurisdictions in the United States. You can clearly see that not everyone is lucky is to be a solid color like Oregon, but these also just aren't by zip codes. In one zip code, there might be a stadium tax on one side of the street, but not the other side. This is why it's so important that you look at the rooftop address level and not just the zip code. There's over 35,000 sales and rental tax rates and over 30 million products that serve for product and service exemptions. All this information that goes into sales tax rates, and you could see that I would personally gladly do a Rubik's Cube and calculate sales tax at this point. So how are people remitting sales tax? Now, this is the old way, and this is honestly a lot of the way that people are doing it. A lot of people come up to me and ask who our biggest competitors are, and I always say that it's manual compliance, which is the old way to remit sales tax. Review whether your filing schedules have changed, keeping in mind that the schedule generally relates to your business revenues. The beginning of the year is a great time to make sure you know how often you'll be required to file your sales and use tax returns. Jurisdictions typically send notices to taxpayers several months in advance of their filing frequency changing. However, if you don't receive a notice, that does not mean the new filing frequency doesn't apply to you. Another great story is that most newly registered taxpayers in Florida are set up to file their returns quarterly. However, if more than $1,000 of sales tax is collected in a fiscal year, a taxpayer is actually required to file their returns monthly. There are also home rule states, where in addition to a state return needing to be filed, a separate return is filed at the local jurisdiction or parish. Keep in mind that if you don't remit sales tax correctly, that your company is personally liable, which means that you can get fined and they can go after your business as well as your personal property, including your house. This is a very serious topic that we are dealing with here and something that you all need to pay attention to very closely if you're doing sales tax the old way. So when coming to sales tax, accuracy is obviously everything. Sales tax is a complex requirement and highly involved process. Managing sales tax manually is labor-intensive, costly, and it can lead to inaccurate results. So let's take a look at the cost of business as usual. A 2015 report reported that 48% of businesses believe that a sales tax auditor would find a mistake. So these folks think it's highly likely that they'll be audited. And it's just about a coin toss whether the business itself thinks that they'll find a mistake. And I guarantee you the auditors are even more confident that they'll find something. Okay, so they think it's likely they're going to be audited, and it's a coin toss as to whether they're going to find mistakes. But if they do the average cost of the business and penalties, interest, and time spent defending the audit, it can add up to over $100,000. That's, I think, enough to get to your attention. I would clearly love to only pay $50 a year for Avalara instead of having to go through all these kinds of penalties. So here's Avalara in a quick overview. How are we going to help the small businesses out there? Avalara integrates with QuickBooks, and we'll get into that soon. The Avalara is the fastest and easiest way to collect sales tax. This is actually what needs to happen in like a sub 1 second response time. So the 7 steps is how it all happens. First, we validate and correct the address in real time. So if you're doing online sales, all you need to know is that your product is going to be shipped to the right address. We apply sourcing rules, so where the product is coming from and where is it going to. We automatically assign correct jurisdictions based on the exact address, not just the zip code. So clearly, we don't have to pay stadium taxes if we don't need to. It applies current, up-to-date tax rules and regulations. Verifies for exemption status, because sometimes on certain products, you don't have to pay sales tax. It identifies the product taxability. It verifies for a tax holiday status. It sends correct sales tax calculations back to the checkout and stores this information for future remittance. AvaTax does this all for you way faster than I just explained it. It's amazing how fast it can do right inside of your QuickBooks data file. So now we're going to go into a quick overview of how AvaTax works with QuickBooks. The screenshots are in QuickBooks Desktop. However, we absolutely work with QuickBooks Online as well. So what you would do is click on the file and scroll down, and this is how you would configure AvaTax once it's installed. You can configure it, look at the address validation, and reporting as well. What is so great about our plugin to QuickBooks is that it has everything right inside of QuickBooks, so you don't have to go to multiple places to be able to send your customers their invoices with the appropriate sales tax rates. You'll see on the additional information tab that I'm going to come down here to the tax item, and this is a very important component. Rather than selecting the city, county, or state where I wish to collect sales tax, all I need to do is select AvaTax to collect everywhere that I have Nexus. Also, on the address information tab, AvaTax includes an address validation service, as you guys know. When I make a change to my existing address or enter in a brand new address, AvaTax will perform the address validation services for me. Now, this is showing an invoice on how AvaTax works. I select my customer, again, and the product that the customer wishes to purchase. This customer isn't in my neighborhood, so I'm not sure what sales tax rates apply, but I do have Nexus there, so I know it should be taxable. Upon hitting save, you will see the sales tax being calculated. It will take over the current rates that you have set up inside of your QuickBooks. On the sales tax area of your invoice, you'll see AvaTax to have it automatically calculate the sales tax rates and taxable items on your invoice. So simple, right? I didn't have to worry about finding the right sales tax rate to apply to this customer. AvaTax looks at the address and determines what the appropriate tax rate should be, as well as determining if this should be a taxable location for your business. Honestly, what could be simpler? Though I must say it's even easier if you just turn on the AvaTax returns and leave the filing and remittance to us. There has never been a more complicated time in the world of sales tax compliance. That complication means that there's never been a better time for sales tax automation. And with AvaTax, you'll never have to worry about sales tax again. This is a look at the Avalara Dashboard, and it has so much information to get you up and going. We will be able to see who your account manager is, set up the information, and everything that you will need to make Avalara successful for you. Think of it as your command center for all things sales tax. Regardless of whether you change or upgrade your accounting system, you change your e-commerce technology, or add a new store and offerings, your sales tax settings are easily adaptable and growing and changing your business. So what you can also see in your console is the detailed reports of your transactions. So once we're done with the QuickBooks side of things, going into the admin console really does show you the power of AvaTax. On my reports that can be generated that identify specifically where I calculated sales tax, and from this report I can manually create my sales tax return. We have tons of reports in here, which makes it great for auditing time when your auditor comes. You can say, here are all my Avalara sales tax reports, and that will hopefully eliminate the time the auditor is there. Because I think we all learned from our previous examples that we do not want the auditor to be hanging out the office when you're trying to frantically pull together this information. So Avalara has been in business for 11 years, and we have more than 20,000 customers and growing. We are very grateful that you are a part of this list. Thank you. Where I think this gets really exciting is that we have a lot of customers, as a lot of small business customers as well. And this one small company, we have saved them about $40,000 a year by using our software. And I think that's where Avalara can make a huge impact on the small business. Can you imagine what we can do with that extra 40 grand a year? Possibly invest it into your marketing department and help you grow your business. Or set up new educational opportunities for your employees so they can continue to grow with you. We are very grateful that we can be a part of this assistance. So just to conclude, why think about using Avalara? Why think about using our software? If you're a business who is in one state with one product, you probably don't need Avalara. But if you're going to go to multiple states or expanding your product, maybe it's getting a little too time-consuming for you. Do you want to build out those rate tables and make sure that your reports are done correctly? Or do you want to focus on your business? You didn't go into business to make sure that you had your sales tax set up correctly. You went into business to do whatever your business is doing, and why not get that time back and focus on that instead of sales tax? Or your business is getting more complex. Maybe you have remote employees, warehouses, and your business is just growing, and that's a great time to start automating. So I'm just going to leave you with this thought. You can pay as little as $50 a month to outsource this instead of hundreds of hours to do it yourself. And that, to me, is a no-brainer. Okay, well, this concludes today. I have included my contact information on this last slide in case you do have any questions. Please feel free to email me. I will also be sending to you all out the Sales and Use Tax Guide for Dummies later this afternoon. Thank you all very much for your time. I hope you have a great rest of your day and happy holidays.